Update: I messed up really bad and said some awful things to my boyfriend when I was drunk, and I don't know how to fix it. Original post: before I get started, I just want to say I know I screwed up, and I am the a-hole here. My boyfriend is a wonderful human being who loves me and only deserves the best. Okay, so like I said, I, 29 female, have a wonderful, wonderful boyfriend, 28 male, and we live together. He had a bit of a rough time with finding work, and he started a job at the post office where he works very hard and works 40 to 60 hours a week. I'm only saying this next part because it's necessary to the situation, but I make more than he does and work less hours than him, and we're struggling with some unexpected finances right now, and it's been causing some tension between us. Last night I went to a bar with some coworkers and I stayed out later than I should have and came home at 2:30 a.m. pretty drunk. My boyfriend was up waiting for me and told me he was worried about me, and I asked why he stayed up. And he told me he was waiting for me and I shouldn't be out that late on a night when I have to work the very next day. I don't know why this set me off, but I got very angry and told him he had no right giving me job advice since he doesn't have a real job and can't even afford to pull his weight like a loser. He told me he thought I should go to bed and walk me over to my room and help me get my shoes and dress off, and I just got in bed and laid down to go to sleep. But the worst part of it was, as I was drifting off, I heard him crying in the bathroom. When I woke up this morning, he had gone to work, and now I'm at work hungover, which sucks. However, I have no idea what to say to him now. He should be home tonight, but I don't know what I can do at this point to let him know how sorry I am and how much I do admire him and was just acting out of a drunken stress last night. He loves steak and potatoes, and he is also a big movie guy, so I was thinking of making him steak and potatoes and renting a movie, but I just don't know. Any advice would be appreciated. Now for the comments before reading the update. Dinner and an apology is not going to cut it. You struck at his heart, and now you will need to bear your own. Spend the day in self-reflection. Be honest with yourself about whatever deep, ugly part of you wanted to say that to him. Stop pretending it isn't there. In that moment, you wanted to hurt him and you had a weapon ready to go. The alcohol let it out. It didn't create it out of a whole cloth. Whatever resentments or insecurities or mean, nasty thoughts are hiding in your head and heart need to be aired out right now. I sound judgmental of you, but I'm not. We all have those nasty little thoughts. It is appropriate and necessary, most of the time, not to share them, but to be resolved for ourselves and be better. You haven't, so they burst out of you when you couldn't stop them. That is why you no longer have the privilege of resolving your ugliness, which again lives in all of us, not just you, privately. You hurt him by showing it to him, so now you got to resolve that in a way that he can see. Confess it without defensiveness. Admit it. Only then will your apology have any real meaning. If you can't open yourself up to him like this, vulnerable and likely to be hurt in the conversation, then I guess make him dinner or whatever. But you'll know that it was an unworthy apology. Wow, amazing comment. I never had a drunk rant that wasn't based in truth somewhere in my psyche. It always comes out meaner than I really felt, like the most childish, most triggered version of myself was talking. It took some courage to face the underlying shit, and to really own it because it often didn't make me look too good. Was definitely hard and ugly, but got me to a place where I was capable of true intimacy. This didn't come from nowhere. A real job is something that earns money to contribute towards a living, and it seems like he has that. You need to take a look at yourself and your views and why you would ever even think to say that classist BS to someone who you apparently love. Steak and potatoes in a movie isn't going to fix anything. You need to fix yourself. Girl, what? The post office has great benefits and pays pretty decent. What do? Is there a huge difference between your salaries? The biggest issue you're going to have to deal with is that you've now planted a seed in his mind that you cannot kill. You've established that you feel you're better than him. He tried to give you solid advice and you threw it back in his face, and if he wasn't qualified to give it to you, which makes no sense because he was right. You're acting all high and mighty for a job that you're not guaranteed to keep. You mentioned in the comments that you gave him $5,000 and now you don't have a safety net. Not to be mean, but $5,000 isn't exactly doing well for yourself or rolling in the dough. If you're in the US, then you're one serious drunk injury away from losing everything. Then you'll be a loser too. You better hope that the job market remains kind to you, because if you ever find yourself down and out on your ear, your boyfriend wouldn't owe it to you to be gracious about it. You've established that you feel better than him. There's always going to be more power dynamics in any relationship. In an unhealthy one, the better than worse than question is something that's going to come up quite a bit, but can be pretty easy to get over by getting rid of the relationship. A person who thinks you are lower than them no longer gets a say if they're no longer around. Unfortunately, she didn't just assert that she was better than him. Instead, she let him know that he was not good at all, and that regardless of any comparison between them, he was a loser who could not pull his own weight. To a guy who just went through over a year of bad gigs, 2 industry-wide strikes, gave up on his passion, got an entry-level job where he's eating shit, and was recently in an accident. The last thing a person experiencing that kind of life change wants to hear is that they suck. Dude was probably tuned into the Oscars before this happened too. I don't even know where I would start here. I don't even know what I would want to hear if I was him. I had a similar situation, only we were married. She pursued her dream, which I fully supported and tried to help when able. We lived in an economically depressed area. I had a full-time plus job, along with an hour each way commute. I supported us as best I could. I gave up all activities that I previous to the marriage enjoyed. I worked evenings, weekends, and holidays helping her. Granted, the financial rewards of my job were not great, but it paid fairly well for our area. During an argument over not being able to make a purchase right away, she called me a lazy, worthless loser with no motivation. Something snapped at that point. I guess the 7 days a week for months took its toll. Our relationship limped along for a year or so, taking on water and slowly sinking. One day, another pretty minor argument finally torpedoed it fully, and the relationship rolled over and sank. That was many years ago. Interestingly, we get along now. I hope for the best for you. If I was your boyfriend, I think your attack would be the beginning of the end for me. To be able to say something like that, drunk or not, indicates a much deeper problem between the two of you. He was showing care and concern, and you struck out with a dagger to his heart. Damn. How does he come back from that? And down deep, do you really want him to? Now for the update. First off, some information I left out of my prior post. In case anyone didn't notice, I don't respond well to alcohol. I have no dependency on it, but my self-control and decision-making is really not good when I'm drunk, and I just get extremely vicious, and it brings out the absolute worst in me. On that same note, I had a group of coworkers who had been wanting to celebrate a promotion one of us got for the past 2 months, and Sunday was the first time any of us were free. So we were just going to have a Sunday afternoon chill that was going to end before 10. However, one bad decision led to another, and we all just collectively stayed until 2 a.m. with drinks. Second, I said what I did, put an annoyance/upset I had with him regarding some financial decisions over the past 2 years that we're now reaping the benefits of. Long story that frankly doesn't matter because it's not about that. I'm still a little unhappy about it, and I express that in a very unhealthy manner. I'm so proud of him for finding a job and trying to provide for us. Now for the update. I read through the comments all afternoon, and then I wrote down a map of the things I wanted to say and waited for him to come home. Additionally, I got in contact with my old therapist, and he was able to squeeze me in for the following morning, so I called out of work the next day to meet with him. My boyfriend finally came through the door, and I asked if we could talk, and he said I could, but he also had some things to say. I started by saying I had no idea what to say to express how sorry I am, except that I shouldn't have said what I said, and I love him and admire him for all the hard work he does. I also told him that I was going to stop drinking, and I had an appointment with my therapist the next day. I also empathized how much I appreciated how he waited for me and helped me to get to bed after I came home, and how he absolutely didn't deserve what I said. He told me that I actually covered the bases of what he was going to say. He He said he was very hurt by what I said, but throughout the day he was thinking and said it was so out of character for me he actually started to get worried. Both of his parents were alcoholics at one point in his life but got sober. And he told me he was going to tell me I needed to quit drinking and see a therapist or anger management counselor, or else he couldn't stay in this relationship. I told him I thought that was very fair and sensible boundary, and I would do my best to do whatever I could. Then he asked if I could be honest and asked me if I meant what I said. I told him I was being purposely vicious because it came from his place of frustration, but I was intentionally trying to upset him, so I said some terrible things. He said he'd love to talk to me about that place of frustration, but then wasn't the time for it. But he told me that he forgave me and he was really happy and admired that I was taking the right steps to make things better, and we had a lovely long hug. Then I had a really emotional appointment with my therapist, and I told him everything that happened, and he helped me map out my feelings and how to express them to my boyfriend. The appointment went great, and I have another one next week. But he thinks I should look into seeing a psychiatrist because I may very well have an undiagnosed mental health condition. That's the next step, definitely. On Wednesday, I had a sit down with my boyfriend where I expressed the frustrations, and he told me my feelings were valid, and frankly, he still kicks himself he didn't start a new job earlier too, because then his credit card debt probably wouldn't be so high. And he talked about how he always felt like he had let me down with his financial decisions, being unemployed for such long periods of time. I won't get into it any further, but we had a really productive conversation. So yeah, we're taking the steps and are openly communicating with each other, and it looks like we're gonna be okay. We've been snuggling together at night, and this morning we even showered together before he went to work. I have some trust issues, so I'm still very anxious he's going to come back and be like, wait, actually no, I don't forgive you. But he's promised me he's going to be open with how he feels, which he has been. I think we're going to be okay. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not leaving the bathroom when a child needed it? Plus update. Original post. Hey everybody, this sounds kind of stupid of me, but maybe my perspective is wrong. My friend and roommate, male 30s, who we can call Kevin, has an 11-year-old daughter, who we can call Rachel. For context purposes, she has no physical disabilities or bladder control issues. She doesn't live with us full time, but she does come every other weekend and on some weekends for visitation. Every time she does, she's always expecting people to do a lot of stuff for her that she could do herself, such as, my dad will carry my stuff, get my drinks, plate my food, give me some of his food and drink after I finish mine because he loves me. This came to the point where Kevin actually finally told her last night that she can stop coloring for long enough to get her own water. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom. When I, female 20s, went in this morning to brush my teeth, Rachel came over and said she needed to use the bathroom. I told her to wait and that she can't try to kick me out every time she wants to pee. This was at least the 4th time she's done this weekend. Kevin tried to tell me that I should leave so that she can use the bathroom because using the toilet takes priority over everything else. To be clear, she came in while I was already in the process and not asking once she saw me. She waited for a maximum of 2.5 minutes. Once I was out, Kevin and I had a brief discussion in which he expressed that he felt it was inappropriate for me to make either him or Rachel wait when I was not physically using the toilet. My stance is that if someone is doing a short task, they are there first, and it's not an emergency, they should wait their turn. This seemed to be the common rule of shared bathrooms to me, but maybe I was wrong. Am I the a-hole? More info, additional information that a friend of mine thought that it was more important to mention. I was already in the process of brushing my teeth when she came over and asked me to leave. She said that she didn't have to go badly, but she did notice that she had to go when she heard me going in. Just tell her you'll be out in a minute. Giving her a lecture is ridiculous. The last few times I have told her that I'll be done in a minute, and then they both get mad at me for making her wait even if I'm in the middle of using the toilet myself. That's why the question is if ITA for not leaving the bathroom. Medical reason? No, absolutely not. If this was medical, I would have gotten out of there right away. She had no urgent need at all. I checked with them afterwards. Could she be trying to get help with menstrual supplies or other girl things? That is a really good thought, and I can definitely appreciate you thinking of her. She does come up to me when she needs something and asks to talk privately for a girl talk, then points to her dad and says no boys allowed. Something about how funny that seems to be to her makes her feel really comfortable about making those requests, which is great. Honestly, I think that she gets so wrapped up in the toys she's playing with or the movie she's watching that she doesn't even think about it until she hears someone else go. She could get a UTI by holding it in. You're right, they can, but no one would have to hold it for hours, not minutes. Other info, commenter, info. Does she actually use the restroom at other times, or does she mysteriously only ever need to go when you're in there, not the a-hole? Now for the update. Hi everyone, I want to thank the people that responded to my post. Some of you were greatly concerned about the situation that I was living in and mentioned that my roommate was taking advantage of me. You were right. He was told in no uncertain terms that he was to leave within 30 days after he had not paid rent again. We tried conversations, but they all turned back on how, after months of not stepping up to the plate of shared responsibilities, it was my fault somehow. He claimed that it was because he spent too much money feeding himself, myself, and Rachel that he could not pay rent. But I feed myself on about $50 a week with a fairly healthy diet. He claimed that he could not help clean much because he was too exhausted from his job. But I used to do something similar, and I cleaned up after myself and my mom. She was sick and could not do much. He claimed that everything was my way or the highway, and that I never listened to him. Right after admitting that I was always supportive, encouraging, and ready to listen, he claimed that I was making his life difficult. When he was told to leave, he behaved as if he was an angry teenager being grounded. He tried to say that he was going to get lawyers involved. Although by law, where I am, I only had to give him 2 weeks since he had procrastinated for so long in signing the lease that he was only able to sign as a co-signer and not a tenant. The extra 2 weeks he received were not required. He said that I've made his life awful ever since his daughter was diagnosed with diabetes, and for context, I had to do most of the parent-type conversations on following house rules because he was too overwhelmed. If I did not want to be tripping over her things, stepping on her toys, picking up her food garbage, and more than I had to ask. Otherwise, he would just ask her to do it, then sit by idly as nothing changed an hour later. That was just me trying to survive the time she was there. He said that I was heartless and cruel for making him homeless and on the holidays. I ruined his life. Even though he cared about me, I clearly did not care about him, and that I was just like everyone else. He hoped I was happy. He was glad I was alone and told me good luck paying rent now. The point is, you were right. You were so right, and your encouragements do better for myself than being in this situation where a massive help in making him leave. I had a severe medical emergency recently, and when I came home alone, I was reminded of how much happier I will always be without all of that going on in my life. So thank you, all of you. You saw more of who he was in 5 minutes than I did in years of friendship. With your kindness and support of a friend of mine who stayed on the phone with me during his tantrum to help me stay strong, I am finally a free, happy young woman, ready to resume my adventures in this world. Story 3. My boyfriend, 29 male, went through a complete physical transformation and is getting all sorts of attention from other women that he likes. How do I, a 30 female, react? Maybe I'm overreacting to this and maybe I'm insecure, but I'm not getting much help from my family and friends. I met Brian in English literature class at our college about 10 years ago. Now, he was over 400 pounds and didn't take good care of himself. I'll be the first to admit that I didn't find him physically attractive, but we bonded over our shared love of Jane Austen and ballroom dancing. He's absolutely hysterical, a great cook, always pays me compliments, and was the first person to contact me when he learned my grandmother had a stroke. I started seeing other things about him. I love the way his eyes would crinkle when he smiles, how he guides me through the steps of waltz when we compete, even how his haircut frames his face. A couple of years after we met, we started dating, and I love him so much. 3 years ago, Brian's mom, 60 female, died of a massive heart attack, and he was completely devastated. Like Brian, she was morbidly obese. Brian sat me down a few days after the funeral and told me that he didn't want to die young like his mom did. He made an appointment with a surgeon specializing in bariatrics and a therapist to work on his food issues. Brian also started eating healthier and exercising more. He hit the gym, started jogging, swam, started teaching ballroom dancing at the high school he used to teach at. I promised him I would support him no matter what, and I kept my word. I threw a big party when he lost his first 100, all with small portions and healthy food, of course. It was a long, hard, and rough road, but 3 years later, he's down to 200 pounds with another 20 to go before he reaches his ideal weight. He's now training to run a 5K, raising money for women's heart health in memory of his mom. I am so proud of him and told him such. With the improvement in his appearance, he started taking much better care of himself. He got a brand new wardrobe, a new haircut, everything. Of course, the massive weight loss has left a lot of skin hanging on him, and he's made an appointment with a plastic surgeon to talk about options for removing it. But other than that, we're both satisfied with the results. I love strolling down the streets on his arm and seeing his pride in his appearance. He's really come out of his shell. Recently, we decided to move to a new city for work. Nobody knows what he looked like beforehand, and I'm noticing other women eyeing him up. He's being friendly with women who probably wouldn't give him the time of day back when he was morbidly obese. He's a friendly person overall, so I wasn't worried at first. Then they started flirting with him, trying to slip their numbers to him and trying to get alone with him. I'm Brian's first girlfriend, and he struggled to get dates because of his appearance. He's not used to girls flirting with him and doesn't always know how to act. He's admitted to me that he's flattered whenever a woman flirts with him. More than once, I stepped in with the whole I'm his girlfriend and led him away. Maybe I did something wrong then, I don't know. It ate away at my self-esteem. Now I'm finding myself afraid he's going to leave me now that he's getting attention from other women. I tried to brush it off, saying I was being insecure and that he's being loyal to me. Well, tonight was the last straw. Brian texted me that his coworkers talked about going to a strip club next weekend. In the past, I wouldn't have been worried, but now I'm really antsy. I haven't responded yet. I tried talking to our friends and my family, but am getting answers ranging from it's not him, it's you, and leave him before he breaks your heart. What do I do now? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.